younger sibling because the parent can't stay home, they're losing ground in school in a way that sometimes they can never make up, and it means a lifetime of lost earnings for them. And it's very well documented that it's not only lower income workers who don't have paid sick leave, but they and their families have worse health too. A lot of people then end up, because they can't go to the doctor during regular business hours, they end up in the emergency room really sick, getting the most expensive care possible when preventative care could have kept them well, healthy, working, productive. We all bear those costs when, in our own health insurance, businesses, individuals, and the government are paying part of those costs of an inefficiency in our healthcare system. And there's a real cost of business, too, of presenteeism. In fact, a lot of economic analyses say that it's costing businesses more to have workers show up sick than it costs when workers stay home when they're sick. Because of the spread of disease, because of the loss of productivity, it ends up costing businesses lots of money for people to come to work sick. And I'd also say that the majority of businesses who are currently providing paid sick leave, there's also an extra cost that they're paying, because if there are, say, two siblings, one of whom gets paid sick leave, the other doesn't, and the parent gets sick, it's of course the business that provides the paid sick leave, that worker is going to be staying home with the sick parent. And the business that doesn't provide paid sick leave, they don't have to share in any of that cost. So that there's a lot of costs that are out there in our system right now. We're used to them, so we don't see them. But some people are feeling those very directly in ways that are very harmful, and that we all end up paying that price.
Would anyone like to respond?
Yeah, I'll respond to that.
All right.
And Marilyn's right. I think if you look at the data, the statistics show that lower income folks or workers are less likely to have access to paid sick leave. And one of my worries is that they're actually going to be the ones who will be then cut out, because the ones who have lost jobs will make it harder for them to get a job. The ones who keep their jobs, they're going to be sitting pretty, right? So I think it's actually going to be worse. Like as David mentioned, we're going to have job loss, benefits cutbacks on the lower economic or the lower income workers. And that's not better off as a society, I would argue. So we need to take a look at what's, because the folks who are sitting at desks, the white-collar workers, they have this benefit, and they're not going to see nearly as much of a cutback as some of those blue-collar workers, and I think we need to take that into account as well.
Okay. That finishes my questions, and so I think given the time, we will open up questions to the floor. There is a microphone here in the center. We would ask that you please keep your questions concise. I will cut you off if you go too long. I'm just like somebody on those reality TV shows. Okay? And please make sure that you end with the question mark so that we can understand what you're asking. So please state who you are, who you represent, if you so desire, and what your question is.
My name is Gary Smith. I'm with Independent Business Association representing small businesses. We have a 9.2% unemployment rate thereabouts in Seattle right now, and I can tell you people want jobs. The bottom line is the economic analysis that was done on this particular proposal in San Francisco was done during an economic period, 2005-2006 as compared to 2007. So it is not representative of where we are today. How many jobs will not be created because of this particular proposal in this kind of economy? And I agree with those up there that say we need an economic analysis.
So I take it you have no question?
How many jobs? Well, let me respond to that, and just a little correction, Gary. San Francisco's ordinance was passed by initiative with about 61% of the vote in 2006. It went into effect in February of 2007. And so we actually have 4.5 years of data, both in terms of jobs and in terms of businesses, numbers of businesses in San Francisco that we can compare to the surrounding counties, the counties directly surrounding San Francisco. That analysis has been done by lots of different organizations, and the data is up on the state of California's website. The data is easy for anybody to look at and analyze themselves, and it actually shows that San Francisco held up, actually did better or as well as all of the surrounding counties in every job sector, including in accommodation and food service, which is the industry most impacted because it's the least likely to currently provide paid sick leave, both in terms of numbers of jobs and in terms of numbers of businesses. So there's absolutely no evidence that there was job loss or a loss of businesses as a result of the law going into effect.
I mean, but I think part of the question, though, is, and Gary, unfortunately, we can't prove a negative. So how can we look to see how many jobs weren't created? We can show that San Francisco job creation continued, but what would it have been otherwise? And I think that's what he's asking.
You got it. You got it.
Okay, next question.
Hi, I own Roxy's Diner in Fremont. I would be in the small business category. I'm just sitting here, not sure this is a question, but it probably is, and it has to do with the cost-benefit analysis. And I don't really hold much stock in cost-benefit analysis since that's what I studied doing in college, so I know how easily they are to be manipulated. And I'm sure everybody on the panel knows that as well. And you'll get the results that you want to get from the analysis that you do. But my quick analysis, that this would cost me about under $6,000 a year if all the employees used maximum. $6,000 a year to a thriving business, or even a moderately thriving business, is not going to change the economics of your business. It's not going to raise the cost of cupcakes or omelets or pancakes or anything else, and you're going to spend more time and energy trying to discredit a program like this than you are proving that it's bad. And
so your question is?
I'm not sure that this should be implemented as an absolute thing, but I think it's benefit to everybody involved, and it's not going to raise costs, and I question how you can substantiate that this is going to raise the cost, that it's going to prevent jobs from being formed, or that it's going to end up reducing jobs. I think that you can't substantiate that. And I don't think there's any point even trying. I'd like to see that something like this implemented so that you can prove that it's going to work, because it will work when it's implemented.
All right, go ahead.
I'll take it. Even the San Francisco data doesn't dispute that there's a negative impact on business. If you look at the San Francisco study and read it, and look at the data that's reported in the charts, you'll see that about 70%, 68% of the folks didn't do anything at all because they already had richer benefits in place. So you look at the remaining 30% or so. Out of those 30% that remained, almost all of them, half to all of them, reported a negative impact on their profits. Okay?
$5,700 a year would be the max that it could be reported.
That's your business, and it's not taking into account the cost of compliance. Whenever there's new regulations that are mandated, companies have to go through and review their handbooks. They have to get them updated. And this is the part that I kind of like because I'm an employment lawyer. So what happens is, I can tell you this because this is what happens. They send me their employment handbooks. They say, Mr. Black, make this comply with the law so that we don't get sued. Okay, because this particular ordinance has access to Superior Court, and contrary to Mr. Noble's assertion that the jurisdictional amount is going to be a disincentive, that's completely false. Employment law statutes and employment litigation is all driven by something called the contingency fee arrangement. That means the attorney gets 1/3 of whatever they recover for the plaintiff. So it doesn't matter what. Have your documents reviewed. You're going to have to track all of the hours for not only your non-exempt people and hourly people, but also your exempt people, because they're entitled to paid sick leave too. So you have to track hours for them. So you have to update your policies and handbooks. You have to train your supervisors so they know how to provide this information. And you have to probably get EPLI, which is Employment Practice Liability Insurance, to cover you when you're sued for not complying.
Not convincing.
It's okay. I'm in the business.
Say something here. There's a lot of conjecture about what if. And, you know, no one here can see the future and knows exactly what's going to happen in Seattle. I love data. I actually do health and education research. I do it and I analyze it. So I believe in data. But we have a rich assortment of data right now already. We don't need to do an economic analysis to know that this is the right thing to do and to know that this is going to ultimately help our economy. And quite frankly, after being on this